Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you for joining this session. Let me start by thinking about the two most difficult questions you will all face when you go to a job interview. One will be, tell me about yourself. The second will be, why should we hire you? Most people find those two questions very difficult to answer, and they will start rehashing their resume. Sometimes they will share their entire life history, and then they will be rejected. And you will start wondering, why? Well, first of all, let us explore why people buy anything. People will buy something when they feel the value is higher than the price. And value is a feeling. It is created through emotional connection. The more your emotional connection to something, the higher your perceived value. For example, how valuable are your brothers and sisters? How valuable are your parents? How valuable are your friends? The most amazing thing also is that our perceived value of the same thing can change dramatically based on supply and circumstances. For example, under ordinary circumstances, we may be willing to pay 25 cents for a bottle of water. However, at an airport, after we have gone through the security checkpoint, our willingness to pay $2 or even higher for that same bottle of water increases dramatically, right? Now, if there's a limited supply of something, like only one of something, the perception of value rises. Thus, a rare coin or a single painting by an artist can be sold at exceptionally high prices. Now, let's apply the same concept to you. Is there anybody else like you in this entire world? No. You are unique. But you may not be utilizing that uniqueness and that single supply in the entire world to your advantage. Some people are. Example, baseball players, football players. Why do they earn millions of dollars every year? Why do movie stars or TV anchors earn a lot of money? Because they're able to negotiate based on the expected value they will produce. They have contract clauses that tie their compensation to the value they will create. So why not you? When you go to a job, should you really be making the same thing that the last person made? Your production of value may be much higher. Why should you make the same as the last person? Now, how do we know how much value we will produce? It is a guess. It is a perception and a feeling. And this is the feeling that you will need to transfer during the job interview and during the compensation negotiations process. I will share 3 stories with you today to kind of demonstrate this. The first story is a story from my own life. I had just finished high school and I needed a job because I was raised by a single mom and I had to work to earn my entertainment money, travel money, books, a lot of things. The only things my mom was able to pay for was the food, 2 shirts, 2 pants, a pair of shoes, and the home we lived in. That's it. Everything else, I had to fend for myself from the 7th grade onwards. So after high school, my English teacher, and this is why I'm sure all of you love your teachers, because your teachers do some amazing things for you that nobody else can. And my English teacher took me on his motorbike to meet with the principal of an international school in Dhaka, Bangladesh. That's where I'm originally from. I'm an immigrant in the United States. He introduced me. The principal was a Catholic nun. So he said, "Sister, this is my best student in English. Please consider him for a teacher position at your school." Now, this was the 1970s. I was 17 years old with long curly hair. And I don't know if you know Elvis Presley, but Elvis Presley used to have these sideburns. And that's what I had. That was the fashion of the time. But that look diminished the value in the eyes of the principal. Because see, value is a perception and a feeling. So she took one look at me, those sideburns and the long hair, and my age, said, "Sorry, I cannot hire such a young boy to teach." That word boy stung me to the core of my heart. At 17, if somebody called me a boy, that was an insult. And the insult burned my ears, and I felt like storming away from the room to avoid the situation. But before I could move, my professor started pleading. "But sister, he has many other talents." "Really? What other talents does he have?" "Sister, he can play the guitar and sing." Suddenly, what happened? My value went up. The principal turned to me. "Can you teach young children to sing and play the guitar?" "Sister, I've never done it, but I'm willing to try." "Okay, you can start on Monday." I was speechless. What just happened? I was about to storm out of the room. Instead, I had just landed my first full-time professional job as a teacher in an international school at 17. Second story. In 2016, I joined as chair of a program in cybersecurity. And in my very first class, I was very intrigued by a paper submitted by a student named Nalfatu Toure. The substance was excellent, but the writing needed work. So I scheduled a call with Nalfatu, and I was shocked by what I learned. She was repeating the class because her previous professor had failed her for half a point. During the entire term, the professor never talked with her because it was an online program. The professor never mentioned that she had a weakness in English or that we had a free writing center at the university. The professor never told us she was missing some assignments And if she just completed one of those assignments, she would get a passing grade. When she contacted the professor, he simply said, "You're not prepared for the course or the program." Case closed. After listening to her story, here's what I told Nalva too. Instead of feeling bad about the negative incident, celebrate it. She was shocked. Celebrate it? Celebrate my failure? Yes, Nalva too. Because if you did not fail in that class, you would not be in my class. And our paths would never cross. Life has no replay button. We can never go back. So we must take every incident that happened in our life, negative or positive, as something that is going to move us forward. And we need to forget about the negative incident, learn from it, and move forward. So I told her, look, this negative incident has given you an opportunity that you would never have had. I will personally give you the guidance that you will need not only to succeed in this class, but in this entire program in the cybersecurity field, because at that time, in 2016, I was one of the few people in the world that had a Doctor of Science degree in the field of cybersecurity. So what are the chances that in a cohort of like 4,800 students in that program, that you would get me personally? So here's what happened. She understood what I was saying, embraced it, and started to celebrate that incident. And I told her, talk about this too. Tell other people this same story, because too many people shut out the negative events of their life and they do not exercise control over those negative events. See, the key is for you to exercise control over the negative events and not have the negative events control you. So here's what happened with Nalva too. She eventually graduated with honors, spoke at conferences, completed an MBA degree, and in February 2020, she placed first in a capture the flag contest at a cybersecurity conference and became a mentor to a university's ethical hacking club. There is no way this would have happened if she hadn't failed that first class and suddenly landed in my class and became my mentee. That was a choice. She didn't have to join my class, listen to me, but she did. And that's why greatness is a choice. And now we come to the third story. By the fall of 2016, I had completely overhauled this graduate program and made it career relevant, because one of my problems with education has always been we teach knowledge, but we almost never teach how to use it. And I had spent 30 years of my life in education, healthcare, biotechnology, and energy. So I had done all of those things before I joined a university to start teaching. And so when I saw what was going on with the curriculum, I decided to overhaul everything and made it career relevant. Smaller scale projects of real world things that people would experience once they go to work. We eliminated textbooks because most textbooks today are obsolete by the time they get to print. What we did was curate open source materials. As you can see, the internet is full of open source materials that are absolutely amazing materials, but somebody has to curate them and use them properly. All right. So we completely overhauled the materials, and we also incorporated personal branding, leadership, and business concepts into the graduate program, because without understanding business, without understanding why or how you would do anything, the course was useless. Now, because this was innovative, it was a total mess. The first launch was a mess. And if you are innovating, and most of you will be innovating for the rest of your life, hopefully, you will find that your first version of anything can be a mess. Don't be afraid of that. So this was a mess, and I wasn't afraid of that. But here's what happened. One of the students decided to complain, and she contacted me to complain about the program. Her name, Tomiko Evans. I listened to her complaints, and I took notes. I sensed a person with a passion to succeed. I felt her pioneering spirit. All her complaints were 100% valid. However, there was a big problem. I could not fix her problems right away, because every time you build a software or you do anything, you cannot often fix it right away. It has to be fixed in the next cycle. So I was honest with her. I told her, I cannot fix your problems this term, but I will take into account everything that you said. In the next term, the next students will experience a much cleaner classroom. But as a leader, and as a cybersecurity professional, and as a young leader in this industry, you will face countless problems like this. And leaders do not focus on the problem. They focus on the solution. Don't complain about the problem. Let's see how we can get around it. Innovation is messy. But you have 100% control over your actions. So get around the problem, minimize the damage. We know the problem is there. We will not penalize you for that, but we will still give you credit on how you approach the problems that we have given you, despite all these obstacles. Focus on graduation. And as you learn to solve problems, teach others, because knowledge in your head is useless. Its power will be unleashed when you share your knowledge. Everybody has knowledge that can be shared. Do this, and you will be a superstar someday. I had no idea what was going through her mind, or if my lesson in leadership was having any effect. A few months later, Tomiko sent me a poem explaining cybersecurity. I was stunned. The poem had rhyme, rhythm, and I felt it was innovation. So I did what any good professor or mentor or career coach would do. I raised the bar. Tomiko, this is amazing. Can you sing this as a rap? She was taken aback. But 3 weeks later, she sent me a recording of her rap. That was amazing. But Tomiko, your rap has no music. Once again, I raised the bar some more. 3 weeks later, there it was. Tomiko sent me a video with a cyber rap, singing the cyber rap and dancing through her room. I thought it was amazing. Her gestures were amazing. The performance was amazing. This young woman had the moves and the voice. So, just like any good mentor, I challenged her to rise higher. Tomiko, I would like you to open a cybersecurity conference presentation with this cyber rap. Tomiko was shocked. Nobody had done anything like that. So she said, Dr. Hasib, what will people think? Tomiko, to be great and to claim your rightful place as a leader in the field, you cannot worry about what people will think. You have to do what no one else can do or will do. No one else can open a cybersecurity presentation with a cyber rap. You are probably the only person in the world who could do this. If it works, you will become a superstar immediately. If it doesn't work, don't do it again. No one knows you right now. You have nothing to lose. Now Tomiko came back with a new protest. But Dr. Hasib, I am afraid of public speaking. I'm afraid of speaking in front of a crowd. Now that was a real problem. So I told her the truth. Tomiko, you can train your mind to overcome this fear. Your mind can be trained to do anything. You will need to practice. Join Toastmasters. Do whatever it takes. And I told her my own story about Toastmasters, because I've been in Toastmasters for more than 25 years. Geri is also in Toastmasters, and that's where we became very good friends. So here's what Tomiko did. She bought a virtual reality gadget. She put it on, and she practiced for 6 months in front of a virtual crowd. So this gadget made it look like she was talking in front of a crowd. After 6 months of practice, at the conference, she brought music and video, and she did her thing. She jumped off the stage, danced through the room, and got the crowd to chant, planes, trains, automobiles. And she sang her cyber rap. And then I said, you have to also demonstrate things. She flew a drone in the conference room. And then she used her phone to hack into that drone. And she got control of the drone, flipped it in the air, and then landed it safely. The crowd went wild. Nobody had ever seen anything like it at a cybersecurity conference. Forget about cybersecurity conference. Nobody had seen anything like that at a conference, period. Because most people do what? They bring boring slides and they go through and read them. But that's not what Tomiko did. As a result, guess what happened? The next day, the organizers invited her. This is a person who hasn't even finished her master's degree yet. But they invited her, an all expenses paid invitation to speak at the National Congress in Florida. And because of this innovation, in 2019, she also won the Up and Coming Professional of the Year award for all of America. That's North, Central, South, all of America. As a mentor, I flew there to witness this amazing milestone in her career. The conference actually made huge posters with her name on it. Now think about how unbelievable that was. Why did it happen? Because she chose to do something different. She chose to embrace her inner greatness. She chose to do things that other people won't dare to do. So the key is, let's look at what's in these stories. In the first story, when you go to a job interview, remember the key thing is your value must be presented. Your resume and your basic qualifications are no longer in question when you appear for a job interview. As a matter of fact, if there are 10 people who are going to be interviewed, all 10 of those have those basic qualifications. Now the key is, how do you demonstrate your value? Are you bringing all of yourself to the job interview? Your personality, all the various talents. Maybe you have a public speaking skill. Maybe you have an acting skill. Maybe you have a singing skill. Maybe you have a musical skill. Maybe you have a marketing skill. Maybe you have a painting skill. All kinds of skills could come into play. Are you friendly? Well, that definitely is a value. If you're not friendly, whereas another candidate is friendly, that could tip the scales right there. If you talk intelligently, if you talk with life, see, we can talk in a boring way, or we can talk with life in our conversation. That alone enhances value, because the same presentation given in a boring way will reduce the value of the presenter. So this is why Toastmasters is so important for all of us, because this is where we learn to give engaging presentations. So the key is that when you go to the job, are you defining the job in your own image? So think about that. If I can be an English teacher, but also a singing teacher and a guitar music teacher at the same time, isn't my value higher than somebody else who will just be an English teacher? Absolutely. So shouldn't my salary also be higher because I'm imparting more value? Notice, not only have I screened out all the other candidates by demonstrating more value, I have now put myself in a position to earn more money, right? If I can do 3 jobs, whereas maybe if they didn't hire me, they would have to hire a music teacher, a guitar teacher, all those kinds of things, right? So we have to understand what are the values that we're bringing to the table. The second thing, in the second story, problems. When we face problems, we shouldn't just focus on the problem. We focus on the solution. The past cannot be changed. So don't focus on that. Take some risks. Focus on what you have. Don't focus on what you don't have, right? It's ridiculous to say, oh, I'm not going to apply to this because I don't have this and I don't have that and I don't have that. And my God, if I start listing all of the things that I don't have, that list could become very long. But instead, if I start listing the things that I have, all of a sudden, I have a better opportunity to represent my value. Don't focus on the things that you don't have. But you have to believe in yourself. Because if you don't believe in yourself, nobody else will. In fact, it is the ordinary people that do extraordinary things by adding a few extra things to their repertoire. Notice what Tomiko did. She was still doing a presentation, but she added a few extra things to her presentation that made that simple presentation extraordinary. Then focus on your uniqueness and greatness that is already there. You just have to package it and present it in an extraordinary way. There is no such thing as a perfect candidate or a perfect human being. No, we're all born unique. We don't choose who our parents are or where we are born, but we do choose where we end up in life. I could have stayed in Bangladesh. I could have not studied for all these things that I did, I did have to make some sacrifices. I had to leave everything that I knew that was familiar to me to improve my brain in the United States of America, because this is where I knew I would get the education that I needed. And if I hadn't come here, there is no way I would have discovered the field of cybersecurity, because in 1984, when I started in the field of cybersecurity, there was no school, college, or university in the world teaching it. I started to learn while I was doing a doctoral program in political science, right? So it doesn't matter what you're doing. The key is to keep looking around to see where are the opportunities to have fun. My main thing was, as soon as this network engineering and cybersecurity and technology started to come, to me, these were toys. This was amazing. I said, oh my God, there are zillions of people that have PhDs in political science. What's another political science professor going to do? Why don't I go into this networking field? And it was a risk. Of course it was a risk, because nobody had done it before. But because I took the risk, it also gave me rewards. I became one of the first people in the world to know network engineering around 1984, 1986, around that time. And I started converting medical schools, nuclear power plants into networks and transforming these organizations. So that's how I built my career. So the key thing is that you also have to consciously work for it. You will never learn anything unless you practice. We're all born knowing nothing. Everything is learned. And the human capacity to learn is infinite. I am still learning today. I just learned about this Google Meet. This is the first time I'm using Google Meet, so hopefully it works. All right, so that's everything in a nutshell. For more of stories, you can read my books, Cybersecurity Leadership, and of course, the other book is this one, Bring Inner Greatness Out. So those are the two main books that I have. For you all, I think Bring Inner Greatness Out, about personal branding, how to bring out your best self, is going to be very important. There's a ton of materials on my website, which is www.cybersecurityleadership.com. My website is completely free to use. My YouTube channel is completely free to use. There are more than 100 educational videos over there on all kinds of topics. So go through that.